you have to deep in your bones love the brand to be an evangelist, to be an authentic evangelist. And so it feels like HubSpot's got to set its mind, its corporate mind, its leadership, to the idea that you've got to identify future evangelists, and you can't hire them.
Right.
You have to grow them in your culture.
If you've got someone on your team who just loves HubSpot, maybe they're a sales rep and they just come to life when they're selling, or they're in some sort of customer success role and they come to life when they're working with customers. If you just say to that person, start publishing daily content on LinkedIn or whatever platform, there's no guarantee that that's going to take off right away. It takes a while to build the network. I don't think the end goal should be making this someone's full-time job. I think evangelism needs to just be a thing that is generally fostered, an attitude that's fostered throughout all of your employees, and then just be on the lookout. If someone's having especially good success, if they're really moving things forward for your company, then invest in that. But so many people, I'm amazed how many people are worried they'll get in trouble if they hop on Instagram and say something nice about their company. Don't over-engineer it. Don't get stuck in a boardroom. What if we do this? What if we do that? Oh, would this work? What if we do? Just look for things that are already happening and figure out how to encourage those things.
Hi, I'm Greg Linnemanstons, president of Wider Group. On this episode of the ChangeOver Podcast, we're exploring how businesses, including industrial companies, can create passionate advocates through brand evangelism. Joining me today is Kyle Jepson, a HubSpot evangelist who has redefined how companies can engage their customers to drive adoption, retention, and advocacy. Kyle, welcome to our podcast. It's just exciting for me and us to be having you as a guest. It's exciting to see you again after being introduced to you and your new life as a keynote speaker. This past summer at Experience Inbound, you were clearly one of our most popular keynotes ever. And that's why we decided it was really exciting to have you as a guest on our podcast.
Yeah, so, I'm happy to be here. It was a great event. I'm wearing the shirt with pride.
It looks good on you. Well, we wanted to start the conversation around the subject that brought you to Experience Inbound, and that is evangelism, and your role as HubSpot's evangelist.
Yeah. So I am evangelist is my title at HubSpot. I am the first person to hold that title so far. I'm the only one to hold it, and it like any good career journey, it was a series of happy accidents, I guess. I joined HubSpot in 2015 just as a support rep. Prior to that, I came to Boston to go to grad school. I got a master's degree in linguistics. I started that program thinking I wanted to get a PhD and be a professor and research and teach and live in the ivory tower. But between my undergrad and graduate work, I worked at a tech company, and the difference in pace and speed at a tech startup and a Boston university was very jarring. And so I finished my master's degree and decided I didn't want to go on in academia. I wanted to go back to tech. And so hooked up with HubSpot as a support rep and discovered HubSpot had this thing called HubSpot Academy. So our CRM was still very new, very lightweight. Mm-hmm. And I moved to HubSpot Academy to teach people how to use this new CRM system. And so it was this marriage of tech and education. It was a job I didn't know existed, and it was perfect. It was beautiful for me. I felt like I had arrived. And I was on the team from early 2016 till 2020, and we got locked down in Boston during the pandemic. And just kind of stir crazy during the pandemic, I started posting short videos to LinkedIn. Just, hey, did you know you could do this in HubSpot? Hey, here's a quick tip about using HubSpot. People really liked them. People told me to keep making them. So I kept doing that for a while. My following on LinkedIn grew. I started expanding to other social networks. I started a user group for HubSpot admins because the admin folks seemed to be the ones who were really showing up for my content. And on a weekly basis, then we were having webinars on top of my daily videos. And it was great. Everybody loved it. Yeah. But it was like this whole other job on top of my responsibilities as a HubSpot Academy professor, where you're supposed to be making these long form courses. And I told my manager, I can't do both of these, but I feel like I can't quit doing either of them. And so the director of HubSpot Academy, Courtney Stembler, advocated for this new role to be invented, this evangelist role, where I'd focus on social content and webinars and community interaction, and just kind of experimenting with moving HubSpot Academy in new directions.
So you were doing the evangelist role. You became one before you were named one.
Right. Yeah.
So when you think about your role as evangelist in chief, what does it mean when you wake up in the morning and you think about what am I going to accomplish next? Tell us about that.
So this title evangelist is not super common, but we didn't invent it either. Mike Wozniak at Apple was an evangelist. There have been evangelists at other companies, but they have primarily been like some sort of brand ambassador, taking the brand to places it haven't been before. Whereas for me, what I'm really excited about is for people who are already using HubSpot, I want them to be more excited about using HubSpot. I want them to know there are new things they could do they didn't know they could do. I want them to feel the thrill of discovery on a daily basis, if possible, because HubSpot is this constantly evolving. We ship new features literally every business day, and so there's always new things. And I think I've built a very good audience of people who already love HubSpot. Right? I know I'm preaching to the converted a lot of times. If you're following on LinkedIn, it's a pretty good bet that you are already a super fan of HubSpot and you're just trying to take yourself to the next level. What I'm thinking about a lot in 2025 and beyond is, how do I get to the unhappy HubSpot customers, right? Is there a way the folks who are in danger of churning or just like dread every morning they have to log into HubSpot and it's just miserable for them? Is there a way I can help them feel a little better about this platform we all share? That's a harder thing to do, but it's a direction I'd like to move in.
I'm going to challenge you. This is something just popped into my head. The idea of are you riding a wave of evangelism that was naturally occurring at HubSpot, or are you creating a sentiment around evangelism that really repositions how people feel about HubSpot?
I'm going to wiggle out of the question and not choose option A or option B. But okay. I'll tell you, I started making these short videos on LinkedIn, end of 2020, early 2021. And I had this idea that, I could come up with a fun fact about HubSpot every day. And that I made it like 2 or 3 weeks before I was really out of fun facts about HubSpot. But then I hit upon the idea of, what if I just tell people what's new? Because there's new features coming out all the time. And that's when it really started to take off. It turned out there was this real hunger in HubSpot's user base to understand new features. Surprise! If you're going to have a software as a subscription that you're paying for, you want to know what you're getting for that money. And so there was this hunger for people to know what was going on. And it turned out the people who wanted to know most were these admin types. And so I started this user group, and it turned out there was a hunger for them to connect with each other, to get kind of an inside scoop from HubSpot's product team about what's coming next so they can prep, so they're not taken off guard. For a long time, HubSpot kind of told this story of, we're so simple, you don't need an admin. But as the platform got broader and broader, people had to have an admin just because it was so much stuff. Someone had to own it. And yet there was no training, no resources, no community for people who identified as a HubSpot admin. They thought, I'm the only person in the whole world who has this HubSpot admin job. And it turns out there are thousands of them, right? And so I don't know that I either tapped into a wave of evangelism or repositioned it so that there was evangelism. I think I just found people who had a very clear need that I could meet. When I first started this user group, I thought I would do it once a quarter because that's what HubSpot user groups usually do. I got a product team to come. We were going to be reworking the HubSpot navigation, and the team that was working on that came and told, hey, all you admins, just so you know, here's what the new navigation is going to look like. And the admins really appreciated it and wanted more of it. And that product team went out and told the other product teams, hey, we just told a bunch of admins about this thing we're going to ship, and we got a bunch of feedback, and it was really great. So then all the product teams were like, hey, Kyle, can we talk to your admins too? And so I was like, okay, we'll do it once a month. Here's a spreadsheet, 12 rows. Everybody sign up. And that filled up. I was like, okay, we'll do it once a week until people burn out and get tired of coming. And we're a couple of years in, and people haven't burned out and gotten tired of coming. We've been doing once a week for a long time. And I just brought those two groups together, and they love each other. They're happy to talk every week.
So when you think about what are the conditions that could tell a business team, a marketing team, whatever it is, that they are ripe for creating a community through evangelism? Because you've just mentioned some preconditions that it feels like should be on the checklist of, if you can say yes to these things, you should consider putting the effort into it.
When I got hired at HubSpot, and I was doing my new hire onboarding, different leaders of HubSpot came in, and a guy who worked on the product team was talking to us about the product and how they develop it and stuff. And I remember one of the people who had just been hired at the same time with me raised their hand, and they're like, so what kind of sprint schedule do you guys follow? And the product leader guy was like, I don't understand. What do you mean? He's like, well, how often do you release features? Is it like once a year, once every 6 months? And he's like, no, we we ship features
all
every
the
day.
time.
And the guy was like, how is it? No, you've got to have some sort of schedule. And he's like, look, each product team at HubSpot is fully autonomous. And when they feel code is ready to go, they ship it, they commit it. There's no release dates. There's no schedule. It's just when they feel it's ready, they can send it. HubSpot is so awesome. It's so adaptable. But from the perspective of whatever this new hire was, maybe he was going to be like in support like me or something. He's like, but how do customers understand? Like, how do they make sense of it? And I think anytime you have this disconnect where internally you're like patting yourself on the back, look how cool it is, we ship features every day, but externally your customers are like, what is going on? We're so confused, we can't keep up. I think that's a great place to insert an evangelist, because you are trying to offer something and your customers aren't understanding it. I think a lot of times if you have customers and you're having trouble understanding why they're unhappy, you're giving them something. You know, we just went through the holidays, right? If you've ever given a gift that you're really excited, oh, this person's gonna love it, and they get it and they don't love it. I think that there's an opportunity there for an evangelist. You know, it's different from a sales role. I'm not convincing people to buy HubSpot, and it's different from a support role. I'm not fixing problems. I am just trying to help get HubSpot's product team and HubSpot's customers in alignment, help them understand each other and connect to each other. And so not everyone listening is going to be a big international software company, right? But everybody listening hopefully works at a company that offers some sort of product to some sort of customer, right? And and the communication between a company and its customers and getting them aligned in what the product is for and what it's used for and what it does and why we love it can sometimes be very thorny. And I think that's a great place to insert someone who's just really in love with your product and can, with genuine enthusiasm, help other people get excited about it.
It feels like in a lot of ways you are in a support role, but you're in a preemptive sort of support. It made me, I just had a picture of a Pareto chart, and I was thinking what you're doing in some ways is you're anticipating support needs, and you're preempting them of having to go a more traditional path to get support, because you're telling them things that you anticipate they're going to want to know.
When I started doing this before it was my job, and when the job was defined for me, and they said, "Here, we're going to move you into this new role." In both cases, it was very much focused on HubSpot has things it needs its customers to know, and Kyle can get the word out. But what we've discovered sort of organically is, as I'm posting on social, as I'm running these webinars, customer feedback comes to me. And I start to notice trends like, gee, a lot of people have asked for the ability for HubSpot to do this, or a lot of people have expressed it's really confusing how this part of HubSpot works. And so I can go back to the product team and say, hey, I'm hearing a lot of this. Is this something you're thinking about? Is this on your roadmap? And I can start being not just an evangelist for HubSpot, but an advocate for HubSpot's customers back to HubSpot.
Has it become a thing with the product teams that you coordinate more systematically with them? That, as you say, you become a source of both input on things they should be thinking about and feedback on things that have been released but aren't perfected yet.
Yeah. So systematic is a strong word. I'm very early in this role still, and we're trying to figure out some of these things. We would like to make it more systematic, more formal, more scaled. And it varies a lot product team to product team. Some product teams have figured out Kyle's got his thumb on the pulse of the customer base, right? And they will say, hey, we're thinking about building this thing this way. Do you think people will understand it? Do you think they'll like it? Is this matching the feedback you're hearing? A couple of product teams have come to my user group, and kind of the standard product manager presentation at the HubSpot admins user group is, here are 45 minutes of slides of all the things we built and we are building, and Q&A at the end. But a few teams in the last year have come and done the reverse. Just a question of like, what are you trying to use this tool for? Where is it letting you down? What do you wish it would do? If we moved in this direction, would that make it better or worse? And have really started to use my user group as a way to crowdsource input on the direction that the product should go.
Yeah.
And that has been really powerful. And I found, and once again, I was like, I don't know, I don't want, people might get tired of it. They might feel like they're being interrogated, but it turns out admins really love to tell you what they want the tool to do, right? They don't get tired of it. But HubSpot has a massive product org, and I do not have these kind of personal relationships with every single product manager at HubSpot. And so figuring out, how do we systematize this? How do we scale it? How do we make this a standard operating procedure? That's kind of a big open question for 2025.
In some ways, you're extending the beta, I think. It feels like.
Yeah. And This is a big hypothetical conversation I was having with my manager at the end of last year as we were looking at 2025 and beyond. If we think of 5-10 years in the future, hopefully I'm not the only evangelist that whole time, right? It would be great if there was a small team of evangelists, and we talk about what would that look like? How would we bring another person on? What would we look for? It's really interesting because my job before, HubSpot Academy has what we call professors, and we create these long form courses. And when HubSpot Academy is looking to hire a new professor, HubSpot experience is really great, but what matters more is just an ability to teach, right? If you know how to teach, we can bring you up to speed on HubSpot, and if you're a good teacher, you can teach it, right? Evangelism is almost the opposite. We just need to know you legitimately, honestly, sincerely, down to your bones, love HubSpot, and that you can get excited about it and get other people excited about it. The way I am sort of defining the role and the way it's grown up around me and the way people think of me as an element of the brand is Kyle's a guy who's not faking it, right? Like this guy, for whatever reason, is off his rocker and in love with this piece of software.
Yeah. Well,
and if we brought in like a professional actor or something, if we brought in Ryan Reynolds to advertise HubSpot, it would be different, right?
Yeah, don't do that.
That's not what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, it sounds to me like what you said is you have to deep in your bones love the brand to be an evangelist, to be an authentic evangelist. And so it feels like HubSpot's got to set its mind, its corporate mind, its leadership to the idea that you've got to identify future evangelists, and you can't hire them.
Right.
You have to grow them in your culture.
Yeah, I was doing some research at the end of 2024, and I found some articles. Evangelism is starting to be talked about in certain circles as brands and companies hiring influencers to bring them inside. And to me, that couldn't be more backwards, right? Just because someone's got a ton of Instagram followers or TikTok followers, you bring them in and you hire them to now tell all those followers to use your product. That's ludicrous. That is not a recipe for long-term success. If you're making a Super Bowl ad, absolutely go and do that. But if you want someone to stay long-term, I mean, it's like the old problem with hiring sales reps, right? You steal away the top sales rep from some other company. That guy's just a hired gun. If someone else can pay him more, he doesn't have any loyalty to your brand. He's going to go over there, right? And a true influencer is going to be the same way. And they're already making a ton of money off sponsorships and stuff. So you're going to have to pay them an incredible salary to get them to come inside. And then they're just going to stick around until someone gives them a better offer. Whereas alternatively, if you can find some frontline employee who doesn't have a lot of other skills, but just gets on the phone with your customers and lights up and is just so happy to tell everyone about your company and your brand and your product and what it does, now you've really got something. That's a person you can keep and you can nurture and you can give them skills and you can just take that energy they have naturally and have them share it with the world. And that is less expensive for one thing and a better long-term strategy for another. So,
well, I think it goes back to the things you've been saying about what makes a great evangelist and the authenticity. There can't be 1 degree of inauthentic molecules in the person's makeup. They've got to come across as 100% believable that your customers start listening to them and they go, yeah, this guy loves it like I do and wants it to be the best it can possibly be. And that's why we're having this conversation. And that's why I listen to him every week. And that's why I promote others listening to him, because he won't steer them wrong.
Right.
And you can't hire that. You got to grow that, right. and let your culture identify this person's going to stand out in that role, and they're going to absolutely attract commitment, because people commit to your messaging, and it's not because you're a good teacher. It's because you are a good teacher, but they commit because they know you're genuine, and you share the excitement that they have.
Well, my hope is, going back to what I was saying earlier, is I do attract the people who share my enthusiasm for HubSpot, but I would really love to talk to some people who are sort of on the fence about HubSpot. They signed up for it last year and they're not sure they're going to renew, and help them see, like, look, I'm not just some corporate, like, I'm not an advertisement. I'm not a paid celebrity endorsement. I legitimately believe this is a great platform and it could make your business better and your life better, right? And let's just talk for a while. Let's just get each other excited. Let's figure out what you're trying to do and find a way that you can enjoy using this platform you're paying for.
So what are the barriers for people who are looking at HubSpot's model and your role in that, who want to try emulating what you're doing? What are the barriers that could get in their way?
Something I think the biggest one is this can take a very long time to build. You know, I started, when I tell my story of evangelism, I typically start with, at the end of 2020, I did these social posts and they really took off. But for almost 5 years up to that point, I had been going on LinkedIn on an almost daily basis. And anytime anyone posted, I just got this HubSpot Academy certification, I was commenting and I was sending them a connect request. And so I had built this network of close to 2,000 LinkedIn people who had at some point gone through a HubSpot Academy course. So these are already people who are predisposed to like HubSpot, right? And so when I started publishing these videos, of course they loved them, right? Like that should have been expected. I was surprised by it, but it makes sense. Like my network had been just curated.
Well, you found your audience. You went and found your audience.
And so, I think of if today HubSpot hired a support rep, just like they hired me almost 10 years ago, and if that support rep fell in love with HubSpot the same way I did and started publishing daily content on LinkedIn, I don't know that anyone would see it because that support rep isn't connected with anyone, or if they are, it's not this network that's predisposed to love HubSpot. And so for any other company, if you've got someone on your team who just loves HubSpot, maybe they're a sales rep and they just come to life when they're selling, or they're in some sort of customer success role and they come to life when they're working with customers. If you just say to that person, start publishing daily content on LinkedIn or whatever platform, there's no guarantee that that's going to take off right away. It takes a while to build the network. It takes a while to get that audience pulled together so that when you put the content out there, it takes off. And so I think it's something that probably can't really be rushed into. I think a smart person could probably accelerate the process if they were working intentionally. I was never doing this intentionally, but still it's going to take years to build that audience. It's going to take years to build that evangelist movement. And I think that's fine. I don't think that's bad, but I would not jump straight to, taking someone off of frontline customer support and putting them in a full-time evangelist role, because I think it's something someone kind of has to build on the side until it's fully baked.
So that's a big piece of your advice, is that it takes patience.
Yeah.
And it takes a bipolarity in what you're doing. You have to be doing two things at once.
Yeah, and I would say if anyone listening to this is a company leader of some sort, business owner or C-suite or whatever, I think the most important thing that person can do is encourage this, right? I am surprised how often I'll be talking to someone at an event or something, and I'll say, hey, what you just said about your product is great. You should turn that into a video and publish it. And they say, well, I better ask my manager for permission. I don't know if it's okay for me to be talking about the brand on social, because I'm not on the social team, and I know that. And it's just, forget it. Don't worry about it. If your employees, if you're taking good care of your employees, and if they love your product, encourage them to tell the internet about it, right? That's only going to bring good results to you. And even if none of those people go on to become a full-time evangelist like I did, the worst that can happen is you start getting positive content about your brand on social. And that's a great thing. I don't think the end goal should be making this someone's full-time job. I think evangelism needs to just be a thing that is generally fostered, an attitude that's fostered throughout all of your employees. And then just be on the lookout. If someone's having especially good success, if they're really moving things forward for your company, then invest in that. But so many people, I'm amazed how many people are worried they'll get in trouble if they hop on Instagram and say something nice about their company.
Another message here, Kyle, is that your advice to company leaders, company founders, it's to create a culture where evangelism is clearly a good thing. And nobody has a second thought about jumping on whatever platform and whatever opportunity. It could be standing on a street corner and singing the praise as if there's an audience there.
Yeah.
and so it's we should be growing cultures where evangelism is valued.
For 5 or 10 years now, lots of folks like Marcus Sheridan and others have been saying video, right? Like you should have videos on your website, you should have a YouTube channel or whatever. And so often the how to get started message there is, look, your sales reps, they're answering the same 10 questions on every single call. What if they turn those into 10 short videos, right? And I think what I'm doing is broadening it even more, not just the questions you're getting, but tell people, if you're talking with a customer and they have an aha moment and they say, now I get it. Now I understand. Yes, I'm happy to pay for this product. Well, take that, bottle it, put it in a video. The idea is just to share the things that help people, the reasons people are happy that they're paying for your product, whatever those are. And a lot of companies do things like case studies, right? But they're all very formal. I think it's something informal, something video based, something energetic, and to your early point, sincere, is really going to resonate with people.
Yeah, I think what you just said there, the mindfulness to look for customer epiphanies.
Yeah.
That customer epiphanies should be magnified, and you don't do that with a case study because it's not as spontaneous. But the idea of talking openly with people who are excited about something they learned, and that if 100 other people heard that, it would excite them too.
I mean, the real reason I started making short videos was because I was so frustrated. HubSpot Academy makes these incredible courses. You sit down for a few hours and you learn this stuff, but it's hours of content, and we write it and we revise it and we read it off a teleprompter. It takes months to make these things. And I really just I know I could talk about HubSpot in a way I could just hit record on my webcam, hit publish same day, right? And that's what I want to do. And it was shorter and it was more casual. And I think if you think about a case study, you don't make a case study about someone until they've been your customer for a couple of years and they can say, this working with this company reduced my annual cost by 50%, or whatever those outcomes are in the big percentages and stuff. But I like that phrase, customer epiphanies, right? Hopefully every day someone in the world uses your product and they say to themselves, wow, that's way better than what I used to do, right? Or, oh, I didn't know it did that. Well, I wish someone would have told me that weeks ago, right? And so if you can just grab those little things and in 30 or 60 seconds tell the internet, hey, I've noticed a lot of people don't know that our multi-tool comes apart in this particular way, whatever it is, and just help people have those discoveries faster.
Well, it just made me think about something that just happened here a couple of days ago, and it was Frank and I were talking to a prospect. And we were describing our sales process, what the steps that we take them through. And she said, hold on, I just want to say something. And it's like, uh-oh. She's going to give us some advice.
Yeah.
And she said, your process is delightful. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, you're teaching me as you're taking me through selling. And I don't feel like I'm being sold to. You're helping me. You're giving away knowledge. You're giving away advice. You're making it fun. She said, I can't wait to pull my salespeople into the conversation, and that's our next step. And she said, that's a lot of work on your part, and you're really making it fun. And so that was one of the things that was an epiphany for me was we got to talk more about that.
Yeah.
About the process, not just.
Well, and how fortunate that she was willing and able to articulate that to you. But I can imagine a lot of people, like maybe anyone heading into a consultative sales process with a company like yours, it has some fear of, are they gonna try to push me into a contract I don't really want? Are they really gonna listen to my needs? And anything you can do to reduce that uncertainty people feel, I think is going to be a win. Yeah,
and it's one of the things that we inside we're really proud of it because we've worked hard at it. But to hear from somebody who's brand new to the experience of us, and that's what I think I'm hearing from you is sharpen your listening so that you recognize an epiphany from a prospect or a customer and you do something with it. Because how many other prospects and customers are in the same role or the situation but haven't seen that yet?
We were talking about an epiphany happens in a moment, right? And you can really figure out what is the thing that causes someone to have this epiphany. Or, hopefully, whatever your company sells, you have employees who use your product, hopefully, right? It doesn't matter if it's software or heavy construction equipment or whatever it is. Hopefully you have people on staff who are using it on a regular basis. And I don't know, I can't think of an example, but I feel like I've had experiences where, I'm driving a car I've had for 10 years and I suddenly realize, oh, there's this little pop open compartment here and I didn't know there was a pop open compartment, right? Turn that into a video. Nobody reads the user's manual, right? They're not going to find on page 127 that this little pop-up compartment is there. And so I think if you could just tell people all the little things that, most folks don't notice this, but did you know our product actually does this? That gets people excited.
Yeah. And I think that's a good wrap-up place is here. This idea that every good business has these opportunities for prospect and customer epiphanies where they go, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And it's just, well, I bought you for this reason, but then I realized there's so much more. And
if you find out from a customer they're using your product in some way you never intended them to, but it turns out it works really well, right? Call that out too. Hey, fun fact, our product is meant to do this thing, but in a pinch, it works this way too. I don't know. It's just good content.
When we think about our listeners, if you were going to close with one last piece of advice when it comes to identifying and elevating this role of a business or brand evangelist, what would you tell people?
If you can figure out how to plan out and make this evangelism thing happen and go for it, good on you. But for me, it was totally organic and mostly accidental, and it was just me just trying to figure out how to help people, right? And so don't over-engineer it. Don't get stuck in a boardroom. What if we do this? What if we do that? Oh, would this work? What if we do? Just look for things that are already happening and figure out how to encourage those things. I love the word you used of culture. Foster a culture where people can try things, and eventually something will work. Hopefully a little spark will catch somewhere. And if you can just be paying enough attention that you see it, then you don't have to plan it out. You don't have to make a 5-year plan. You can just find the things that are working and do more of them. And I think evangelism, if you think of it very broadly, you're not looking to make it someone's full-time job in 2025, but you're looking to encourage it as a mindset, as an attitude that exists in your employee base. Then good things are bound to happen, and it'll probably evolve differently than mine has, but that's fine. It'll fit the needs of your company and your customers better.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, Kyle, that hearing your story made us think more intentionally about recognizing evangelist candidates in our clients.
Oh.
To spend some time with a salesperson or a product person or a customer service person and listen to the love that they have for what they do and how they benefit their customers makes us realize that evangelists are few and far between, but when you see one and you hear one and you recognize what they can do, it's easy to make an argument for shining some light on them and trying to push a client's culture toward celebrating what's possible with those people.
Yeah, that's really cool. I hadn't thought about, but I love that because you see the inside of a lot of different companies, right? You get this perspective, and if you notice someone who's just glowing as they're talking about whatever manufacturing process like that, keep an eye, keep that guy happy, right?
We have a new client who builds equipment for making bed in the box, the foam beds, and I spent an hour in the factory with him, walking from machine to machine, and he is so in love with what they've built. He is so proud of what they can do for their customers, and he loves his customers. So it's
and that's what you're looking for. That's all.
That's what we're looking for. It's genuine and it's powerful. Well, it's a joy talking to you, and I know our audience is going to learn a lot from you. I can't wait to get this out and get people listening to it.
Thanks for joining us on the ChangeOver Podcast. Remember to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Wider.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let us know what you'd like to hear about next time by messaging Wider Group on social media. Thanks for watching.